The Federal Bureau of Investigation is being asked to look into some gubernatorial campaign contributions. Attorney General Daniel Cameron's office is making that request. A deputy attorney general wants the FBI to look into questionable over-the-limit contributions to the Andy Beshear re-election campaign. Cameron wants to unseat Beshear in this year's governor's race. As WYMT's Phil Pendleton reports, the investigation could center around contributions that were linked to the newly elected London mayor.
Daniel Cameron is in a high-profile race against the sitting governor, a governor that, according to the publication The Kentucky Lantern, received a major campaign donation of more than $200,000 linked to the newly elected London mayor, Randall Weddle. Kentucky Registry of Election Finance laws prohibit individual donations of more than $2,100 per election cycle. Cameron says his office, because of ethics opinions, will not be investigating the matter.
And we did the responsible thing here, which is to refer it to the FBI.
Cameron says the allegations are that $200,000 came from one individual, the London mayor, that a $1.4 million contract was awarded to the city.
People are sick and tired of pay-to-play politics. They're sick and tired of the way that Democrats, when they get in the governor's office, treat the office.
Governor Beshear has stated previously that numerous grants were awarded all over Kentucky, not just for London. Today, he said his campaign takes all rules very seriously and is very transparent about them.
To do what's right and to work directly with the regulators. My understanding is that the campaign has met each of those requirements, worked directly with KREF, explaining everything they knew.
Beshear's campaign states that these campaign contributions that were over the individual limits of $2,100, if they have not been refunded to Weddle, they soon will be. In Laurel County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Phil, thank you. London Mayor Randall Weddle has not responded to our request to comment on the request for an FBI investigation. A group is trying to restore voting rights for Kentuckians who have been convicted of a felony. As it stands right now, people in Kentucky who have been formerly incarcerated cannot vote unless they individually petition the governor to get that right back. The Kentucky Equal Justice Center and the Fair Election Center came together to try and change that. They explained to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals why they believe the current process for restoring voting rights is unconstitutional. The groups have also filed a lawsuit against Governor Beshear for keeping what they call an arbitrary system in place.
So more than twice the rate of disenfranchisement for Black Kentuckians because we over-police and over-prosecute those communities.
Kentucky is one of the only states where the governor does not have any set criteria to reestablish voting rights. That's the only option for people who have been convicted to ask the governor themselves. A Pike County woman is behind bars after state police say drugs were found at her home. 35-year-old Sasha Sword is charged with trafficking and possession of meth, heroin, and marijuana. Troopers say they found a large amount of drugs, paraphernalia, guns, and almost $4,000 in cash during a search of the home. Sword is being held in the Pike County Detention Center. A former Carter County camp counselor is behind bars accused of sexual abuse. State police responded to Camp Webb regarding a complaint there. When police arrived, they spoke to a juvenile victim and got a statement. Troopers say they then spoke to the man accused of the crime, 18-year-old Mason Rogers. Officers say he reportedly admitted to the crime and was taken into custody. Rogers was taken to the Carter County Detention Center and has been charged with sexual abuse. The Middle Creek Volunteer Fire Department is mourning the loss of one of its own. Charles E. Hackworth died yesterday. He was a founding member of the fire department back in 1984 and had done a variety of different jobs throughout its 39-year history. You can find Hackworth's arrangements on our website, WYMT.com.
Continuing to watch showers pivot through the mountains this afternoon. You see the heaviest of the bunch working through parts of Leslie County right now. In fact, let's zoom in and talk about it. Right on top of Cutchin, it's not necessarily a torrential downpour, but it's heavier than what's around it all throughout the region. It's mostly just light rain. Same thing up into the Big Sandy, perhaps a heavier patch just to the east of Inez there in northern parts of Martin County. But for the most part, we're quiet. We had the view from out front of the station here, but can tell you it's not that dark outside. Same thing from London Corbin Airport, where the temperature sits at 66. We're back into the mid-60s in many locations. Yes, it's the first full day of summer. 68 in Irvine, our warm spot right now. Jonesville's at 72, and the warmest spot we've seen region-wide today was 73. Yeah, it's not been a warm day out there. Your forecast first through the next 12 hours. We go from the upper 60s into the lower 60s as we wake up on Friday morning, though temperatures do rebound quite a bit as we head through Friday and into the weekend. Details on that in a few minutes, Steve.
All right, Evan, thank you. New bipartisan legislation is being introduced to simplify the application process for federal disaster assistance. One co-sponsor is Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Today, WYMT's Olivia Calfee spoke with him about what that could mean for Kentuckians and why he saw the need.
Following two major disasters in Kentucky in the last couple of years with tornadoes in the west and floods in the east, Senator Rand Paul says the application for folks to receive federal help wasn't easy.
The forms are complicated, the forms are duplicative, the deadlines are different. And so we've been looking for ways to try to fix these.
Partnering with U.S. Senator Gary Peters out of Michigan, Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, and Florida Senator Marco Rubio, introducing two bipartisan bills.
One bill, reduces the forms. So basically, you only have to fill out one form. And then another bill we've been working on actually changes some deadlines to make the deadlines coincide as well.
In a recent analysis, it found that more than 50% of the questions on the FEMA and SBA application forms are repetitive. Going on to express his confidence in the future of the bills.
I think really these bills dealing with disaster aid and forms and deadlines are non-controversial enough that I think we should be able to get them across the finish line without, hopefully without a lot of delay.
Saying despite the frustrations with the federal aid process, he has continued to see Kentuckians lift each other up. In Hazard, Olivia Calfee, WYMT Mountain News.
If the Disaster Assistance Simplification Act is passed, the legislation would make FEMA the lead agency in implementing the Universal Disaster Assistance application for disaster victims. Plus, the bill requires all information sharing practices to meet federal data security standards. Kentucky Senior Senator Mitch McConnell is pushing against ethics complaints about the U.S. Supreme Court. A ProPublica report this week revealed that Justice Samuel Alito went on a luxury trip with two Republican donors in 2008. One of them has brought about a dozen cases before the Supreme Court since then. Some Democrats have been pushing for legislation to set up ethics rules for the court. Senator McConnell says Congress does not have that authority. Applications open today for a new round of funding for eastern Kentucky counties affected by the recent flood. Along with an official from the USDA, Governor Beshear announced that millions of dollars will be made available to eastern Kentucky counties. The funding can be used for repairing damaged infrastructure as well as reducing long-term risks from future weather events.
And the guidelines are just if it's has to deal with infrastructure and it happened because of the flood, and then the governor's office has reached out and said submit your request in of what kind of damages you got, and they're going to try to help us.
The more than 20 counties that received a major disaster declaration last year now have 60 days to submit requests for funding. WYMT's Keaton Hall will have more about this tonight at 11. One Breathitt County private school affected by flooding more than once is raising money to relocate. WYMT's RJ Johnson tells us what that school's future is looking like.
For more than 100 years, Riverside Christian School has operated in the Lost Creek community of Breathitt County, helping students across the region. But after 2 years of flooding, Principal Meg Asher says it's time to move on.
Obviously, after two pretty rough floods, it is not like our building is just not in great shape anymore. So we made it through the year, but we are in the process of relocating.
Asher says she is looking forward to this next chapter of relocating.
the possibilities of being in a bigger, a safer space. We're just excited. We're excited to be part of this mission and to keep it going and see it continuing even after everything we've been through in the last 2 years.
However, they need help purchasing the building, approximately $500,000.
We started a campaign in November and have been raising money. We're aiming for $500,000 to purchase the school and to pay for repairs that need to be done before we move and get the students back in the building.
Being a lot to ask for, school counselor Lisa Bettleton says it's a way to get out of the flood zone and provide a safe space for education.
To have a quality education where you have equity of services available to these students. We're a private school. We don't have government funding. So being able to have those resources for our students, it's only going to help give them that future orientation, to give them a chance to move forward and look to the future.
Being 1/5 of the way to their goal, Bettleton says every little bit helps. In Breathitt County, RJ Johnson, WYMT Mountain News.
Bettleton says they plan to use the original building as a community center. To find out how to donate, you can visit our website at WYMT.com. Unemployment rates continue to increase across the state of Kentucky, especially here in the east. In a news release from the State Education and Labor Cabinet, 96 counties experienced an increase in unemployment rates between May of 2022 and May of 2023. Magoffin County leads the state in unemployment with a rate of 8.9%. Judge Executive Matthew Wireman says while leading the state is not new, there's still a sense of urgency.
But as far as a sense of urgency, yeah, it's a key indicator that we need our economy to grow and that we're in an impoverished area and that we need industry, we need jobs here.
Wireman says a way to address the issue is to increase tourism activities. We'll have more on how Magoffin County is addressing the issue of unemployment tonight at 11. London City Council approved a $19 million budget for the upcoming fiscal year. The large increase in the budget comes from some grants they have already received and grants they have applied for and hope to receive. If the grants are not received, then the City Council can meet to amend the budget.
While that big industries, they look at counties, but they really focus on cities. And we need to increase our population size, and we understand that, and council understands that. And that's what we're committed to do, is to continue to grow this city so it becomes more attractive to businesses to want to come and do business right here in London.
Mayor Weddle says their goal is to increase the population to improve the economy.